So the Battle of New Orleans is really the key battle to the War of 1812. The Battle of Baltimore at Fort McHenry simply allowed the city of Baltimore not to be taken, okay? But the the battle that's going to decide the winner, so to speak, winner of the War of 1812 is going to be the Battle of New Orleans, okay? Now, by the time we get to the Battle of New Orleans, the War of 1812 has really been 3 years long. It's 3 years fought, okay? And at this point, the British strategy was to capture the port city of New Orleans. That's what the British wanted to do. Now remember, we got the port city of New Orleans by virtue of purchasing that and all of the Louisiana territory from Napoleon, right? Shortly after 1800. So we own, so to speak, the port city of New Orleans. The British believed if they can capture the port city of New Orleans, that they would have access, would they not, to the Mississippi River? And they've got some fighting going on in the north, and they're basically going to come from the north through the Great Lakes, and then they're going to capture New Orleans and come from the south, and they're just going to sweep America clean and win this war. That's their plan. So they want to capture this port city of New Orleans. If they don't capture the port city of New Orleans, their strategy doesn't work, and basically the War of 1812 is going to end. Now the man that's assigned the responsibility of protecting the city of New Orleans is General Andrew Jackson. He's the fellow, when we looked at bad, bleak presidents, that hit his political assassin with this stick, remember? He was a tough dude. You're going to learn a lot about Andrew Jackson from this point on. But General Andrew Jackson is the man that's ordered to protect the port city of New Orleans from this British assault. Now, he leads a Tennessee militia. What does that mean? Tennessee militia, yes.
It's just like commoners.
Just commoners from Tennessee. And he's the leader of the Tennessee militia. Okay? And he's expecting 2,000 2,000 American troops to join him against the British at New Orleans. So what he has at his disposal at the present time would be 1,000 Tennessee militia. Okay? But he's expecting and been promised 2,000 well-trained, regular American Army soldiers that'll be coming to New Orleans to assist him. So he's expecting 3,000 men, 2,000 regular Army under his command, and 1,000 militia from the Tennessee militia under his command. Because where's he from? Tennessee. Okay, that's what he's expecting. Well, on top of that, he gets a little extra help. And it's a good thing he gets it. So his Tennessee militia is joined by the following prior to the 2,000 well-trained regular Army soldiers that are supposed to be there. He's got 1,000 militia from where? Okay, he gets 2,000 more militiamen from Kentucky and Mississippi. So he gets 2,000 more militiamen from Kentucky and Mississippi. So now how many's he got? 3,000, because he hadn't got the other ones yet, okay? He's got 3,000, 1,000 from his own militia in Tennessee, and 2,000 more militiamen from Kentucky and Mississippi. He also gets 500 men from New Orleans who want to protect their city. So he also gets 500 men willing to fight with them from New Orleans to protect their city. So how many's he got now? 3,500. He also receives 500 free blacks that said they will fight and support New Orleans. And they were slaves in Haiti, which you don't really have to write down, which is an island in the West Indies, and they had gotten free of their slave owners in Haiti and come to New Orleans. And they decided they too would fight for their city. 500 free blacks. So how many you got now?
4,000.
4,000. And then he's got a group, I don't know the numbers, not a lot, of Choctaw Indians who have joined. A group of Choctaw Indians have joined. So he has an excess right now without the regular army of how many? 4,000, right? Okay. 1,000 Tennessee militia, 2,000 militia from Kentucky and Mississippi, and 1,000 men from New Orleans, some white, some black, okay? And some Choctaw Indians. 500.
From New Orleans?
He's got 1,000 Tennessee militia, 2,000 militia from Kentucky and Mississippi, 500 men from New Orleans that are fighting for the protection of their city, and 500 free blacks that live in New Orleans that have come from Haiti. And a few Choctaw Indians, yeah.
Do we need all of those numbers on the test?
Well, you might, so I'd write them down. Okay? Especially if I had an open note test. Now, he also got support from a French pirate. And what was his name, Jordan? Jean Lafitte. God, what a brilliant young man. Jean Lafitte is this French pirate that joins Jackson as well. Now, what's a pirate? People who rob other ships. He's a French pirate. He robs from other ships. So how's he going to serve General Jackson? I wonder if anybody knows that. Let's see. Let's see. How's he going to serve him?
He's probably going to go and raid the British ships.
No.
Is he going to watch the port with this ship?
Jordan, what's he going to do? What's Lafitte going to do? What support is he going to give Jackson?
Like naval support?
Yeah, he's going to be an intelligence officer, right? Is he going to give him anything else? Is he going to supply him with any supplies? I'm not sure. I didn't read your entire paper yet, but what else is he going to give? He's going to be an intelligence officer for Jackson, but he's going to give him gunpowder, and he's going to give him flints for his muskets, and he's going to give him cannons and cannonballs. So this French pirate is going to join forces, Jean Lafitte, and it says, it looks like Jean on your ID sheet, but it's pronounced Jean. Jean Lafitte is going to serve as an intelligence officer for Jackson, but he's going to supply him with things that he would have never gotten on his own, he being Jackson. Gunpowder, flints for the muskets, and cannons and cannonballs. So this guy's a big-time asset to Jackson. It's a good thing because guess what, Marcus? Those 2,000 well-trained Army soldiers that Jackson was supposed to get, never showed, never got them. Okay? So he's sitting there with about 4,000 men, right? Some Choctaw Indians, and he's got the help of Jean Lafitte at New Orleans to defend it against this British assault. You know how many British soldiers are going to attack New Orleans?
20,000.
Well, 10,000. So he's going to be outnumbered 4,000 to 10,000. Okay? So he's got just over 4,000 men, and he's going to be vastly outnumbered, more than 2 to 1, as nearly 10,000 British soldiers are going to be on the attack at New Orleans here shortly. Okay? So he's vastly outnumbered. Now, the British soldiers had a very good commander as well, a major general by the name of, what was his name? Sir Edward Pakenham. Okay, Sir Edward Pakenham. He was the man that was going to command the British, hopefully to a victory over these Americans at New Orleans. So these British soldiers were under the command of Major General Sir Edward Pakenham. Pakenham is how you pronounce it. And he would command the British. So here's how the story goes. It's a good one. On December 23rd of 1814, on December 23rd of 1814, these 10,000 British soldiers come ashore just south of New Orleans, and they camp on sugar plantations there. Okay? So, on December 23rd of 1814, the British soldiers under the command of Sir Edward Pakenham come ashore just south of New Orleans, and they camp on sugar plantations. Now, what Jackson did is he broke the rules of war, and he told his soldiers to fight the British forces on those sugar plantations when? Night. At night. Very good. Now that was foreign to British soldiers because the rules of war prohibited fighting at night. You weren't supposed to fight at night. You don't fight on holidays. Okay? There's certain days you don't fight. There's certain rules of war. So Jackson's men attacked the British camps in those sugar plantations at night, and they had a ship in the Mississippi River. They were firing cannon fire in there as well. So the whole purpose of doing this on Jackson's part was to disrupt these British camps at night. And he had good weather because it was pitch black. There was no moon at that time of the year. And so the British soldiers could never really see these Americans as they would sneak into camp and assault them and shoot these cannonballs from this ship in the Mississippi River. And he just was trying to disrupt them all the time. These type of tactics where your men fire rifles, attack the camps and hit British soldiers with rifle butts or swords or knives or fists or pistols or strangle them or whatever they did when they assaulted them is called guerrilla tactics. Not gorilla, but guerrilla tactics, which is on your ID sheet. So Jackson's men are using guerrilla tactics. As they're being lobbed cannon fire into these camps, his men are going in there and using rifles to shoot these British soldiers, clubbing them over the head with rifle butts, slashing them with swords, knifing them, fighting them with their fists, shooting them with pistols, strangling them, whatever they're doing. And this isn't how the rules of war. You're supposed to stand fast, aim your weapon, shoot, let the other one aim their weapon, shoot, you know. And they weren't doing that. They were using these guerrilla tactics. Why was he wanting to disrupt this entire camp? He's got a certain purpose. What? Yeah, but you're right. You're partially right. But he must be doing it for a reason. That's not going to win the war for him. Why is he keeping the British busy? Because during the day, he and his men are building a fortification, a wall fortification called a parapet, which is basically a wall of what two things? Build a wall out of what? Parapet. Well, could you build a wall out of at that time? What? Earth and wood. Okay? So basically they're building a parapet, which is on your ID sheet. And that's a wall made out of earth and wood. So they assault these British all night long, get them off their game. So what are they doing during the day? They're organizing themselves, right? Because they've been attacked all night, right? Well, then during the day, while the British are organizing themselves, his men are building this great big dirt and wood wall or parapet to protect what? The city of New Orleans, right? They're building this outside of town so that when these 10,000 soldiers eventually do come at them and they're so outnumbered, they're behind a big wall shooting, and what are those British soldiers doing? They're walking right into it. That's the plan. Now this fortification we're talking about is going to be 1 mile north of the British camp. So it'll be between the British camp and New Orleans. It's not right at right at New Orleans. It's about halfway between this British camp on these sugar plantations and New Orleans. About halfway between. Now, let's just think about this. So, here's New Orleans. Here's the British camp. And here's this wall that he has built. What do you always protect in battle? You always protect your what? Your right. You don't want anybody coming this way. You always protect your right flank. Why would he put that right there? What's going to protect his right flank? What's over here, do you think? What?
River.
River and swamp. So he knows that the British are not going to come this way at him. They're going to have to come straight at him. Okay? Because they built this in which there is nothing here to travel over. Does that make sense? So he set it up so this wall will protect them, and they're going to have to march straight at him. So this fortification is going to be positioned so that Jackson's men can protect their right flank with a river and swampland. Now they got water here, right? Access to water. What do you think they dug right there? Huh?
No.
Moats, 10 feet wide, which they did what with? Filled with water. So not only are they going to have to march at them, they're going to have to get through a 10-foot wide moat and pretty deep, full of water to get to that parapet to get to them. So Jackson's very bright. So in front of the wall, General Jackson orders his men to dig a moat 10 feet wide, which they fill with water from a nearby drainage canal. So this hit-and-run warfare that Jackson's doing while he's building this fortification takes him 4 days. So 4 nights they're attacking and 4 days they're building. Okay, so in a 4-day period of time, after 4 days of continuous attack at night, this fortification's built. Well, by that time, the British decide it's time to do what? To attack. But before they attack, the British send General Jackson a nasty note. They send him a nasty note. They send a messenger over, holds up the white flag, and he gives Jackson a note from the British commander Pakenham. And that note tells Jackson that he is ungentlemanly because of the guerrilla tactics that he is doing against the British, and they would expect him to fight, stand up and fight like a gentleman. So, Jackson receives a note from the British side, General Pakenham, stating that he is ungentlemanly and his tactics are not those of a gentleman, and the expectation when they attack would be that he would stand and fight per the rules of war. Now you got to know Jackson, as he sends a little note back, so to speak, informing the British how ungentlemanly they are to think that they could occupy American soil and to go the hell back to where they came from. That's basically what he told. Okay, so we got a little bit of notes going on here. They weren't able, William, to text bad messages to each other in those days. They, by God, sent messengers to let them know how they felt. Okay, so with that said, that'll take us to our next subtopic, which is American victory at New Orleans. American victory at New Orleans. American victory at New Orleans. Now, where General Jackson's force is going to be, Cassie? They're going to be moving? Where are they going to be? They're going to be behind that parapet, right? They're going to be behind that earth and wooden fortification with the 10-foot moat in front of it. And what's going to happen is the British are going to assault that fortification, right? And by the time this Battle of New Orleans is over, the British are going to make 3 separate assaults. And we're going to tell you first assault and what happened, second assault and what happened, and third assault and what happened. Okay? The one we're going to cover today, and we'll end with it and then watch the video, is the first assault. This will be the first of 3 assaults by the British against Jackson and his fortification. And it occurred on December 28th of 1814. Yep, Christmas battles, yep. December, you notice they didn't fight on the 25th though, right? Well, they kind of did, we did, right? What we do, we attacked them on Christmas Day. My God, what type of people are we? That's why you got the nasty note.
December 26th.
Well, 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th, right? So we were doing all this bad stuff. Well, the day we're talking about now is the 28th. Now, this is kind of interesting. Listen to this. On December 28th of 1814, prior to attacking, guess what British Commander Pakenham ordered? You know this from your report? Remember the first day of the battle? It's okay.
No.
He ordered the firing of Congreve rockets into the fortification. That's before he attacked. he ordered the firing of Congreve rockets into the fortification. Now, why do you do that? You know they're not going to blow anything up, and you're sure as heck not going to start dirt on fire. That's right. He didn't think that Jackson had ever seen, or his men had ever seen, Congreve rockets. And he was right. So he thought if he fired these Congreve rockets, he basically would scare Jackson and his men into retreat, and they would advance against nothing. Seriously, that's what he thought. Worth a try, right? So on December 28th of 1814, prior to attacking, British Commander Pakenham ordered the firing of Congreve rockets into the sky. He believed these firework-looking rockets would frighten General Jackson and his men to retreat because he didn't believe he had ever seen one before. Well, the American reaction, according to documentation, is that they thought they looked rather pretty. That was Jackson's reaction. Well, they look rather pretty. Are you coming? You know, what's the deal, right? And the men stood fast. They did not move. Okay, they just stood fast. They thought they were rather pretty, according to historians. Well, as a result of no reaction on the part of the Americans, the British fired their cannons from a distance into the American fortification. They fired their cannons into the fortification for 3 hours. Soldiers also, British soldiers, fired their musket balls into the fortification. So they had some sort of an assault. Ground troops firing their muskets, but they're not getting that close. And cannons firing into the fortification, thinking that that alone would make